The girl's knuckles barely made a sound against the wooden door, but Eleanor Carver heard it like thunder in the pre-dawn silence. She'd been awake for hours anyway, watching the horizon bleed from black to purple through her bedroom window, waiting for another empty day to begin. The knock came again, weaker this time, followed by a soft whimper that made Eleanor's chest tighten in a way she hadn't felt in 3 years. She moved through the dark house without lighting a lamp, her bare feet knowing every creak in the floorboards. The ranch had been hers and Thomas's once, back when laughter filled these rooms and the future stretched out bright as summer wheat. Now it was just hers, and most days that felt like more burden than blessing. When she opened the door, the girl nearly fell into her arms. "Please," the girl whispered, one hand clutching the doorframe, the other pressed against her swollen belly. Her face was pale as milk in the dying starlight, her dress torn at the shoulder and stained with road dust. "Please, ma'am, I don't have nowhere else." Eleanor caught her before she crumpled, felt the girl's weight sag against her shoulder. She couldn't have been more than 17, 18 at most. Her blonde hair hung in tangles down her back, and when Eleanor shifted her grip, she could feel every rib through the thin fabric. "I got you," Eleanor said, her voice rougher than she intended. "Come on inside." She half-carried the girl to the kitchen, easing her into the chair by the stove. The first grey light of dawn was creeping through the windows now, enough to see by without wasting oil. The girl's eyes were closed, her breathing shallow and quick. Eleanor grabbed the water pitcher and a clean cloth, pressed it to the girl's cracked lips. "Drink slow," she said, "not too much at once." The girl's eyes fluttered open, blue as cornflowers, red-rimmed with exhaustion. She took the water with shaking hands, spilling half of it down her chin. "Thank you," she breathed. "I walked all night. Since Redstone, my feet." She looked down at her boots, and Eleanor followed her gaze. The leather was split at the seams, dark with what might have been blood. "Redstone's 20 miles from here." "I know," the girl's voice cracked. "I didn't have no choice." Eleanor studied her in the growing light. The torn dress, the empty eyes, the protective way her hand never left her belly. She'd seen enough of life to read the story written there, even if the girl never spoke a word of it. "What's your name?" Lily Brennan," she hesitated. "Was Brennan, my folks, they died last winter, fever took 'em both." "I'm Eleanor Carver, this is the Carver Ranch, what's left of it." She moved to the stove, started building up the fire. "You running from someone?" Lily's silence was answer enough. Eleanor filled a pot with water, hung it over the flames. "You hungry?" "Starving," the word came out broken, like she was confessing a sin. "When's that baby due?" "Don't rightly know, soon, I think, maybe a week, maybe less." Lily's hand moved in slow circles over her belly. "I can feel it dropping, the way my ma said it would before my little brother came." Eleanor cracked eggs into a pan, sliced bread from yesterday's loaf. The simple motions steadied her hands, gave her time to think. She'd been alone for 3 years, keeping this ranch running on stubbornness and spite after Thomas took sick and died. She'd gotten used to the quiet, the emptiness, told herself she preferred it that way. But standing here in her kitchen with this girl who looked half dead and wholly desperate, Eleanor felt something shift inside her chest. Something old and rusted, creaking back to life. "You can stay," she said, not looking at Lily. "Long as you need." Lily made a sound that might have been a sob. "I can work. I can clean, cook, mend clothes. I won't be a burden, I swear it." "You're about to have a baby, you ain't working." Eleanor set the plate in front of her, watched as Lily fell on the food like she hadn't eaten in days. She probably hadn't. "Eat, then you're sleeping. We'll figure out the rest later." "Ma'am, I..." "Eleanor, just Eleanor." Lily looked up at her with those red-rimmed eyes, and Eleanor saw something in them that made her throat tight. Gratitude, yes, but deeper than that. Hope, the kind of fragile, desperate hope that could break a person if it got crushed. "Eleanor," Lily whispered, "thank you." Eleanor turned away, busied herself with the coffee pot. She didn't trust herself to speak. The sun was climbing over the eastern hills now, painting the kitchen gold. Through the window, Eleanor could see her land stretching out, the barn with its sagging roof, the empty corrals, the fields gone wild with weeds. Thomas had worked this place with his whole heart, built it into something good. After he died, Elena had tried to keep it going alone, but the work was too much for one woman. The neighbors had offered help, offered sympathy, offered more than one proposal of marriage. She'd turned them all down. But now, watching Lily eat like every bite might be her last, Elena wondered if maybe her solitude had been less about choice and more about fear. Fear of needing someone again, fear of losing them. "Who's the father?" she asked quietly. Lily's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. "Don't matter, he's gone." "He love you." "No, ma'am, he died. Horse threw him, broke his neck." Lily set the fork down, her appetite suddenly gone. "We weren't married yet. His family, they said I was lying, said I was trying to trap their son even after he was dead. They run me out of town." "Redstone." "Yes, ma'am." Elena poured 2 cups of coffee, set one in front of Lily. "Drink it, you look half froze." They sat in silence for a while, the morning sounds of the ranch filtering through the walls. Chickens clucking in their coop, the wind rattling the barn door, a distant hawk screaming over the hills. Normal sounds, good sounds. "You really walked all night?" Elena asked. "I was scared, thought maybe his family would come after me, try to." Lily's hand moved to her belly again. "I had to protect my baby. It's all I got left of him." "What was his name?" Daniel Carson." Lily's voice went soft. "He was kind, really kind, said he'd marry me soon as the harvest was done, but the harvest never came and neither did our wedding." Elena sipped her coffee, felt the bitterness burn down her throat. She knew about plans that never came true, about futures that died before they started. "You loved him?" "Yes, ma'am, more than anything." "Then you'll tell that baby about him, every day. You'll make sure it knows its daddy was a good man who loved its mama." Elena met Lily's eyes across the table. "That's what matters, not what his family says, not what anybody says." Lily's lips trembled. "How do you know?" "Because I know what it's like to lose someone worth loving, and I know that love don't die just because people do." Elena stood, carried the empty plates to the wash basin. "Come on, you need rest." She led Lily through the house to the small guest room off the kitchen. It had been Thomas's mother's room once, back when she'd lived with them in her final years. Elena had kept it clean but unused since then, the bed made with quilts her mother-in-law had stitched, the curtains pulled against the light. "This is yours now," Elena said, opening the curtains to let the morning sun spill in. "Long as you need it." Lily stood in the doorway, staring at the bed like it was something holy. "I ain't slept in a real bed since my folks died." "Well, you're sleeping in one now." Elena pulled back the quilts, fluffed the pillow. "Get some rest. I'll wake you for lunch." But Lily didn't move. She just stood there, tears streaming down her face, one hand pressed to her mouth. "Hey now," Elena said, uncomfortable with the crying. "It's just a bed." "It ain't just a bed," Lily's voice broke. "It's kindness, it's mercy, it's I thought I was gonna die out there, I thought my baby was gonna die, and then you opened that door." Elena didn't know what to say to that, so she did what felt natural. She crossed the room and pulled Lily into her arms, held her while she sobbed against her shoulder. The girl was all bones and grief, shaking like a leaf in a storm. "You ain't dying," Elena said firmly. "Neither's that baby. I won't let it happen, you understand." Lily nodded against her shoulder, still crying. "Good, now get in that bed before you fall down." She helped Lily out of her boots. The girl gasped in pain when the leather pulled away from her blistered feet and eased her down onto the mattress. Lily was asleep before Elena even pulled the quilt up over her shoulders. Elena stood there for a moment, looking down at this stranger who'd knocked on her door at dawn. This girl with her swollen belly and broken boots, running from a town that should have protected her. A girl who'd walked 20 miles in the dark because she had nowhere else to go. Something fierce and protective rose up in Elena's chest, something she hadn't felt since Thomas died, maybe longer. She left the door open so she could hear if Lily called out, then went about her morning chores. Fed the chickens, mucked out the barn, checked the fences in the near pasture. The work was good, kept her hands busy while her mind churned. By noon, Elena had made a decision. She was in the kitchen making soup when Lily appeared in the doorway, looking rumpled and disoriented. "I'm sorry," she said immediately. "I didn't mean to sleep so long. I should be helping." "Sit down," Elena said. "You're eating lunch, then you're telling me the whole story, everything." Lily sat. Over bowls of vegetable soup and thick slices of bread, the truth came out. Daniel Carson had been the youngest son of the richest family in Redstone. His father owned the bank, his mother ran the church auxiliary. They'd had plans for Daniel, big plans that didn't include marrying an orphan girl who worked in the general store. When Daniel died, they'd blamed Lily, said she distracted him, made him reckless. When she'd told them about the baby, they'd called her a liar and a whore. The sheriff was Daniel's cousin. The preacher was his uncle. Nobody would listen to her. Nobody would help. So she'd left. "I didn't have nothing," Lily said quietly. "Just the dress on my back and these boots Daniel gave me last Christmas. I walked because I couldn't stay, not with them looking at me like I was dirt." Elena's jaw tightened. She knew men like the Carsons, men who thought money made them righteous. She dealt with plenty of them after Thomas died, men who'd offered to help her with the ranch if she'd just be reasonable and marry one of them. She'd told them where they could put their help. "You're safe here," Elena said. "The Carsons have no reach this far out. But when the baby comes, we'll handle it together." Lily looked at her with something like wonder. "Why are you doing this? You don't even know me." Elena was quiet for a moment, stirring her soup. "When Thomas died, this town rallied around me, brought food, offered help, but they also offered advice I didn't want and pity I didn't need. After a while, I stopped letting them in, told myself I was better off alone." She met Lily's eyes. "Maybe I was wrong. Maybe sometimes we need each other, even when we think we don't. I'll pay you back somehow, I promise. I don't want payment, I want company. It gets quiet out here." They finished their meal in comfortable silence, and Elena felt something shift again. The house felt less empty. The future looked less bleak. That night, Elena was awakened by a sound from the guest room. She was on her feet in seconds, grabbing her robe and hurrying down the hall. Lily was sitting up in bed, her face pale in the moonlight streaming through the window. "Elena," her voice was small, frightened. "Something's wrong, I think the baby's coming." Elena's heart kicked into a higher gear, but she kept her voice calm. "How far apart are the pains?" "I don't know, few minutes maybe," Lily gasped, doubling over as another contraction hit. It's too soon, ain't it?" "Barbies come when they come." Elena moved to the bedside, helped Lily lie back down. "I need to check how far along you are. Can you let me do that?" Lily nodded, tears streaming down her face. Elena had helped birth calves and foals, even helped a neighbor deliver twins once when the doctor couldn't get there in time. She wasn't a midwife, but she knew enough. She fetched clean cloths and hot water, lit every lamp in the room. "You're doing fine," she told Lily, though privately she was worried. The girl was so small, so worn down. Just breathe through the pains. "I'm scared," Lily whispered. "I know, but you're strong, stronger than you think." Elena gripped her hand. "And I'm right here, I ain't going nowhere." The labor lasted through the night and into the dawn. Lily screamed and cried and begged for it to end, and Elena held her hand and wiped her face and told her to push when the time came. The sun was just starting to paint the horizon pink when the baby finally came, sliding into Elena's waiting hands in a rush of blood and fluid. For one terrible moment, the infant didn't make a sound. Elena's heart stopped. She turned the baby over, cleared its mouth and nose, rubbed its tiny back. "Come on," she whispered. "Come on, little one, breathe." The baby gasped, then let out a thin, angry wail. Relief flooded through Elena so powerfully her knees nearly buckled. "It's a girl," she said, her voice thick. "Lily, you got a daughter." Lily was sobbing, reaching for her baby with shaking hands. Elena cleaned the infant quickly, wrapped her in a soft blanket, and placed her in her mother's arms. "She's perfect," Lily breathed, staring down at the tiny red face. "She's perfect." Elena sank into the chair beside the bed, suddenly exhausted. The room smelled of blood and sweat and something else, something new and alive and precious. She watched Lily cradle her daughter, watched the baby's little mouth open and close, searching. "What will you name her?" Elena asked softly. Lily looked up, tears still streaming down her face, but these were different tears, tears of joy instead of fear. "Elena," she said, "if that's all right, I want to name her Elena." Elena's breath caught. "You don't have to." "I want to. You saved us both. You gave us a chance when nobody else would." Lily looked down at her daughter again. "Elena Grace Carson, after you and after Mercy." Elena had to look away, had to press her hand to her mouth to keep from crying. She hadn't cried in 3 years, not since they'd lowered Thomas into the ground. But now the tears came, hot and fierce and cleansing. "That's a good name," she managed. "Real good." As the sun climbed higher, flooding the room with golden light, Elena helped Lily get cleaned up and settled. The baby nursed eagerly, her tiny fingers curling and uncurling against her mother's breast. Lily looked exhausted but radiant, transformed by love and relief. "We made it," she whispered. "We really made it." "Yeah," Elena said, tucking the quilts around them both. "You did." She left them to rest and stumbled out to the porch, needing air and space to process what had just happened. The ranch spread out before her in the morning light, familiar and worn but somehow different now, not empty, not anymore. She didn't hear the horses until they were almost at the gate. 3 riders coming up the road at a steady pace. Elena's stomach tightened when she recognized the lead horse, a big bay gelding that could only belong to one man in the territory. The sheriff from Redstone. She moved to the edge of the porch, arms crossed, as the riders approached. The sheriff dismounted first, a heavy-set man with a gray beard and hard eyes. The 2 men with him stayed in their saddles, one old enough to be someone's grandfather, the other young and nervous-looking. "Morning, Mrs. Carver," the sheriff said, tipping his hat. "Sorry to bother you this early." "Sheriff Hayes, what brings you out this way?" "We're looking for a girl, Lily Brennan, blonde, pregnant, about 17. She ran off from Redstone yesterday." He shifted his weight, thumbs hooked in his gun belt. "Her condition, we are worried she might not be thinking straight, might hurt herself or the baby." Elena kept her face neutral. "That's so. We got reason to believe she might have come this direction. Wondered if maybe you'd seen her." "Why would she come here? I don't know any Lily Brennan." The older man on horseback spoke up. "My name's Carson, James Carson. That girl's carrying my dead son's baby, and I aim to take care of it proper. Boy deserves to know his family." "Girl," Elena said flatly. "What?" "It's a girl. Baby was born about an hour ago, healthy and strong. And her mama's doing fine too, if you were wondering." The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut. Sheriff Hayes took a step forward. "So she is here." "She is, and she's staying." "Now, Mrs. Carver, be reasonable." "I am being reasonable. That girl walked 20 miles in the dark because your town drove her out. She was starving, exhausted, and terrified. You want to talk about reasonable, Sheriff? Let's talk about how you let the Carsons run her off instead of protecting her." James Carson's face flushed red. "She was lying about my son, trying to trap him." "Your son's dead, Mr. Carson, and that baby in there is his blood whether you like it or not. But you made your choice when you called her a liar and a whore. You don't get to change your mind now just because you're feeling guilty." "You got no right." "I got every right. This is my land, and she's under my protection now." Elena's voice went hard as iron. "You want to try and take her, you'll have to go through me." The young man on horseback spoke for the first time. "Uncle James, maybe we should." "Shut up, Bobby." Carson turned back to Elena, his eyes cold. "That baby's a Carson. It belongs with family. That baby belongs with its mama, and its mama ain't going nowhere." Sheriff Hayes held up his hands. "All right, everybody calm down. Mrs. Carver, nobody's trying to take the baby away. Mr. Carson just wants to make sure his grandchild is cared for proper. The baby's being cared for just fine. By you, a widow living alone on a failing ranch. Carson's lip curled. What kind of life is that for my grandchild? Elena's temper flared hot and bright. Better than growing up with a family that thinks lying about its mama is acceptable. Better than learning from a grandfather who values pride over decency. You sanctimonious. Enough, the sheriff's voice cracked like a whip. Mr. Carson, I think we should go. Mrs. Carver's within her rights to offer shelter. This ain't over, Carson said, pointing at Elena. I got lawyers. I got connections. I'll have that baby back where it belongs. Try it, Elena said softly. See what happens. They stared at each other, two stubborn wills colliding in the morning sun. Finally, Carson turned and mounted his horse. The three men rode away without another word, dust rising behind them. Elena stood on the porch until they were out of sight, her heart hammering against her ribs. Her hands were shaking. She'd just made powerful enemies, men who could make her life very difficult if they chose. But when she walked back inside and saw Lily holding her baby, both of them sleeping peacefully in the morning light, Elena knew she'd made the right choice. She sat down in the chair beside the bed, watching mother and daughter breathe in tandem. The baby's little face was scrunched up, one tiny fist pressed to her cheek. She looked like her mother, the same blonde hair, the same delicate features. Elena thought about Thomas, about the children they'd never had, about the future she'd thought was over when he died. Maybe it wasn't over, maybe it was just different now. Lily stirred, her eyes opening. Elena, I thought I heard voices. Just the wind. You sure? Elena looked at her, this brave girl who'd walked through the night to save her baby. This stranger who'd become something more in the space of a single day. I'm sure, Elena said. Get some rest, you're safe here. And as the sun climbed higher over the Colorado hills, Elena made a silent promise. To Lily, to baby Elena, to herself. She would protect them, she would fight for them, she would make this ranch a home again. A place where love mattered more than blood and kindness mattered more than law. The town could say what it wanted. The Carsons could threaten all they liked. This was her family now, and nobody was taking them from her. Outside, the wind whispered through the grass, carrying the scent of sage and possibility. Inside, three hearts beat together, two women and one tiny girl, bound by circumstance and choice, and something stronger than both. Hope. The kind that survives the darkness. The kind that's born at dawn.